All right, we are live. So I got Rich Cooper here on the channel. Fucking entrepreneur. I already swore. That's okay. I already have fun right in the beginning. That's okay. That's fine. We're all word of mouth here, anyways.
You didn't
But
monetize your channel yet, right?
it doesn't matter.
So
Yeah.
it
Well,
doesn't
I
matter.
sent in the stuff. It's just not. It's not all approved. It's in the process now. So
Got it.
hopefully next month. But yeah. So here we are, and I wanted to hash it out and talk about your new book. I just finished it recently, and I think it's excellent, man. I think it's a
Thank you.
really good job. So I'm going to start off with just my endorsement of the book. A lot of people, ask me like, well, what type of reading material should I do, or what should I look at to improve my life? And I think this one is a foundational one to look at. It pretty much covers all your bases. It gives you a guideline of how you want to frame and start the process of designing your own life and handling women. And so guys who are just coming to Red Pill or just trying to figure things out, some of these guys are in marriages already and they're okay, how do I repair this? Or some of these guys are in the dating market, wherever phase that you're in, there's certain behaviors and things that you need to pay attention to and things you need to do. And this pretty much outlines all of it. There's other books I recommend, and I was telling Rich before we got live here, is that there's other books that are great, like Rollo's whole entire book series is great, but it's hard to latch onto that material if you're new to this, especially, and start immediately applying it to your situation in your life. Whereas your book is really simple, but in a genius way. It covers what I call the basics. And I don't mean that in an insulting manner, because the basics are what gets you out of problems. I mean, we have a chapter actually on fight training and combative training, but the basics, when it comes to combativism fighting, being really good and strong at the basics is the foundation of everything out there. And so I'll just get quick anecdote on that is, I use this comparison, like the difference between a National Guard infantry company who only trains, maybe a couple 3 or 4 day weekends a year, 1 weekend a month, and maybe 2 or 3 weeks of training a year. What's the difference between National Guard infantry, platoon executing an ambush, let's say, and maybe some high level operators like, special forces teams or CAG or Delta Force executing an ambush or a raid? And the answer is the steps are actually all the same. In fact, the steps to how to do a raid is public information that you can get from the infantry manuals. And those steps are the same steps that Delta Force is going to use versus regular infantry National Guard. Well, what's the difference though? Delta Force operators can execute the basics at the highest level, and they have their basics down to such a high level that doesn't even look the same when they execute. Now, there might be some communication differences, equipment differences, and some things like that too, but that individual soldier and his basics are at such a level that he can do more stuff, and even just executing the same mission looks completely different. And so that's why the basics are important. And I wanted to illustrate that and just hammer that home. If you don't have the basics of kind of how you need to frame your life, what you're going to pay attention to, like for example, red flags that you talked about, this is basic stuff. If you're in it with a toxic single mommy who's still in touch with her ex with a septum piercing, and then you're going, how do I use my red pill content to maintain frame? You're going about it wrong. You know what I mean? Because you're missing the basic stuff that's going to make you execute and have the life that you want. So enough of my little monologue. Let's talk about your book, man. So what was the inspiration? Like, what caused you to want to write this and get this on paper?
That was kind of it. I mean, you explained it in a way that I wouldn't even think of, but it was to put out the basics that all guys need to comprehend. And you can comprehend it at a elementary level, or you can comprehend it at an advanced level. It's still like the fundamentals of executing game and optimizing your own life as a man and putting yourself first and employing mental point of origin. It's just, are you the guy that's had one-itis, pining for women, being a thirsty beta, throwing money at OnlyFans chicks, not getting any kind of results? Or are you the guy that has had great results, but has had his heart broken a couple of times, made some stupid choices, got some crap results? It doesn't matter. The information is for either one of those camps. It's just, I just wanted to take everything that I've learned over the years and just distill it down into a book. And what I did was I took the most popular, useful, frequent, recurring information that kept coming up in like consults, doing coaching calls, doing one-on-one Zooms, doing group Zooms, you know, even with the community that we all run together. But all of that stuff, I just really wanted to put it in a book that was like 200 pages long, easy to read, easy to consume, and, you know, written in a way that it would make sense. And I think I got it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that the beating Aaron Cleary in book sales, I think that is demonstrating that you got it. So it's good.
Well, let's just clarify that, because not only did we just beat him, but, you know, I actually destroyed all of his other book numbers, and he's been writing books for a long time. But love you, brother.
Love you. We love you, Aaron. We're just messing with you, dude. That's okay, because I have my book in edit, which is going to come much later because I got to get the course out first on frame. But I'm sure it's going to have destroyed mine as well. My 400-page book is going to be a lot less attractive for someone to buy than a 200-page to the point blueprint of what they need to do. You know, it's just the way that it is, man. And that's what's cool. Like, we needed a book like this in this space that just gives you that blueprint. You know, like here, it's like, here's kind of like what to do. Guys are like, cool, that's a really long essay on hypergamy, or that's a really long discussion on, you know, the friend zone or whatever. Well, what do I do now? Like, you know, how do I, okay, so I'm dating, what am I supposed to do? Right. And the pickup materials out there, right? I mean, guys can jump on and get on a program, jump in with, you know, a course and learn pickup. So that part's out there, but okay, now what do you do? All right. You're spinning a few girls. Well, what do you do now? Where should your focus be? You know, what, you know, those sorts of things.
I have a question for you, Paul. Did you come across anything in the book that was like, oh, I didn't think of that before? Because I mean, like, you're pretty advanced when it comes to game.
Yeah. Well, I liked a couple of things that I didn't think about in terms of how to frame the information I kind of already knew. Like, one was like scale of interest you had, which was really more of a marketing, took an entrepreneurial concept and applied it to women. You know, you out of, you know, a scale of interest of 1 to 10, you know, your 9 through 10s are your promoters, you know, to 7 through 8s are your indifferents, and then the 1 through 6s are your detractors. I kind of like that framework of that format, you know what I mean? And understanding, like, you know, when you talk to most women, most guys, I mean, depending on their status, of course, in their SMV, but you know, most guys, when they talk to women, are going to be dealing with the 1 to 6 detractors. You know what I mean? They're going to be dealing with chicks that just aren't that interested in them, but will soak up their time and attention, though, no problem. They'll have free dinner with them. You know, they'll waste their time on a dating app, bantering back and forth, then ghosting the conversation for the weekend, then coming back.
They'll go and take like that screenshot and they'll go put it in like a Facebook group and go, "Hey guys, where did I go wrong?" And then a bunch of guys that don't know anything about it will come up with ideas like, "Well, did you figure out what her love language is?" or some crazy shit like that.
That'll be our show next week. Love language. yeah, exactly. Well, I think she needs words of affirmation. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, and it's just like the bottom line is, and what I liked about it, and actually a lot of this stuff came from you before the book, man, because we were in this community. But you know, the 1% community, if you guys aren't in it, you might want to think about getting involved in that. So that's a good community to get into. I had game down to like a science when I came into the community. I wasn't really there to get better with women necessarily. I was there to get better at my at entrepreneurship. You know, I was transitioning from being mildly successful in real estate and having successes in the military into like really wanting to kind of find my way into business and what I wanted to do. And I didn't know it'd be apex mindset either. I had no idea. I just knew that I needed to get better. And that part of getting better is to surround yourself with people who are better. And so I got into the community for that reason. It wasn't because of women. I was probably bringing more advice to the table than I was getting it. But one thing, though, that you demonstrated that I didn't think about so much was this aspect of, and you have it in the book, and you said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was like, women will add value to your life if you keep the wrong ones out. That's a sentence that stuck out to me, and I think that's really like a powerful way of looking at it. And I didn't have that paradigm because my game was so good. So what that means is like I could get crazy chicks to do what I wanted in the beginning. You know what I mean? I could take the BPD chick under my wing, keep her in my frame for at least a few months or even longer than that. You know, I could do that because my game was to that point. My frame control was there, but it was so much effort and so much time putting into that, number one. So I'm not chasing excellence now because I have toxic women in my life that I have to manage. And it's like 10 times the effort to manage a toxic girl than a chick who kind of has her crap together and doesn't have the list of red flags that you've mentioned, you know? And so I kept inviting the wrong ones into my life, even as plates, and then using game to overcome a bunch of stuff and to get genuine desire and sex and all that crap. But it was so much effort, you know, and you're just like, hey man, like focus on your purpose. And that's way too much effort, you know, and here's what you're doing. But it was that concept that you illustrated in the book. You worded it a little differently, but the concept that you've sort of had now the last few years, which is just to keep the wrong women out of your life. So you have room in your life for the right ones to come in and add value to your life. It's like, oh yeah. And now I'm glad I got that before I started Apex Mindset, because now I'm coaching dudes and working with dudes in consultations. And that's a key component to it, you know, because even if guys plate spinning, like I would rather have let's say I have 3 good, solid, casual relationships, right? Just pretend. I would rather have those 3 women be a compliment to my life, non-toxic, and have a lot of good qualities because I'm gonna have a much better time with them versus, well, this one is a little bit crazy and, you know, she tried to stab her ex-boyfriend and, you know, like this stuff, but she, you know, she touches my pee-pee and she smells nice. Yeah. You know, that's what guys do. And it's like, no, dude, no, because and I'll a little anecdote, a little story, because I'm in an LTR that people would like. I think most people would be like, I hate to put my stuff out there, like, oh, be like me or whatever. But I mean, it's like, you know, you're in LTR too, right? And we're kind of, you know, we're private about that stuff, but really it's the kind of relationship that most people would just die, like they would kill for it. They have no idea what it'd be like to be in the kind of LTR that you're in, that I'm in, and that some of the other guys are in the space are in, to have these experiences. But we had to pick a girl that wasn't a pile of red flags. That was half the battle, wasn't it? And back when I met my chick, I had met other women that night. And one of them was a pile of red flags, 22-year-old who wanted to bang that night. She was hot and all that, but what she was a pile of red flags. Had I gone down that road, I wouldn't have had the room for this other hot girl who happened to be LTR material. Wouldn't have had room for her. You know what I mean? I was leaving in 5 weeks for Afghanistan. This other chick would have taken my time and energy up because of her toxic, crazy stuff and behavior. And it just would have been something for me to manage. And that would have been less time and energy into the healthy girl. And I wouldn't have a good relationship. You know what I mean? So that's a long answer, man. But that is the biggest takeaway that I got personally, and how you worded it from the book. And also what I had gotten from you. I mean, I've gotten that concept though, actually before that, because you remember I was in a toxic relationship for a bit when I was in the first started in the community. So
yeah. We talked about that for a bit.
Yeah, that was fun. So here's a pressing question. Right. Yeah. Like we what do we
want to go on a roller coaster? Like, roller coaster rides are always fun, but they're also terrifying.
Right. Exactly. Oh man. So like, here is the pressing question that everyone wants to know. All right, everyone. Did you bang the Amazonian in the bathroom, Rich?
No, I didn't. No, I did not. She you know, she showed up taller than what I thought she was, and heavier than what her pictures indicated. Because women always use creative, photography. They'll give you the aerial down the top, and they'll focus on the boobies and hide everything else. But she was cute. She was a fun chick to like have a drink with. But I just wasn't into it. Like, I wasn't going to play the game, and I wasn't really like into even smashing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just thought that was pretty hilarious because I'm like, I've done the bathroom trick with a few, and
oh yeah, I've done the
got
bathroom
caught.
trick. I just didn't want to do it with that chick. That's all.
Didn't want to do it with her. She's she might break the sink.
I wasn't sure if the stall was going to be big enough to accommodate us both. You know what I'm saying? Like, these Amazonian chicks are big.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I just thought that was like the hilarious story, man. So let's talk about actually combat sports. I want to get into that with you a little bit. It's something a little bit different that not everybody talks about. You mention it in the book. So explain to me, like, I mean, in the audience and everybody else, like, I mean, I obviously have my take on it and everything, but what's how is that helping guys out? Why do you think combat sports are critical for the development of a man?
Well, I cover it in depth in the chapter, but what it really boils down to is women want a lethal man that's civilized, right? That can walk about in a civilized way, but has the capacity for violence, that has the capacity to defend himself and the people that he loves. Because ultimately, women don't really want to be an MMA fighter. They don't want to fucking fight off the bad guy. They want to hide behind you while you fight off the bad guy. So you're probably not going to need to use a skill at any time in your life. I mean, especially you live somewhere safe like Canada and the suburbs sort of thing. But if you live in a large urban city with large populations, at some point, you're probably going to run into somebody that might pull a knife or a gun on you, or you might have to roll around with, because of a fight or something happens in a bar. You got to know how to stand up for yourself. There was a clip that I put on Instagram yesterday. I don't know who the hell she is, but she's some MMA chick fighter. And she was talking about how turned off she was when her boyfriend lost his fight, and he was going down basically like a pussy. And shortly after that, even though she said that he was a great boyfriend, he was so great. Right. He was one of the good guys. She still dumped him. Right. Yeah. So women lose attractiveness to a guy that is incompetent with his hands when it comes to combat. Are you going to get into a fight at some point in your life? I don't know. Maybe not. But
right.
I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Well, I think that it's important. Like, the two things that man has to, in my opinion, have sorted out, at least, even if, is so that he can really maintain an alpha frame, is his own survival and his own reproductive problem solved. Like, those two things. Those are when we break it down to brass tacks, like, what are our most primal drives? The two most primal drives are solving the reproductive problem and surviving. You know what I mean?
You froze up on my end. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear him in the cast? He totally froze on my end. Okay, so it's not me then. All right, so maybe I'll just carry on doing the show. Okay, so this is the Paul Apex Mindset Show, and today we're going to be talking about how to run some harem game. I could totally ruin or make Paul's channel right now. I'm not going to do that though. But hopefully he comes back in real soon. Oh, we totally lost him. Is the show still running? Looks like you guys are still on, so I'm sure he'll find a way to get back in. What can I talk about here on the Apex Mindset Show? Well, I don't know where to start. Why don't you guys ask questions in the chat and I'll see what's going on. There he is. He's back.
Yeah,
I was actually going to run the rest of the show for you, man. I was going to try to improvise. I was like, okay,
that's cool. You didn't get kicked off.
Let me scroll up here and see what's going on. Yeah, but you totally froze for a second.
Yeah, no, I lost. It's the snow. We got, like you guys got about a foot and a half. So did I. I'm right off a lake though, And so some of our, lines and stuff are a little bit more exposed maybe. And, so I lost Wi-Fi this morning, but it was only for like 20 minutes and it came back. So hopefully things will be good the rest of the time. It's been strong all day. I don't know what happened, but that's fun.
Cool. Welcome back, man, to your own show.
Thanks. Welcome back to my own show on my own channel. Well, your channel is more successful than mine, so we could just have you run my stuff like every Monday at noon. We'll just have you do a show and mine, and people tune into it. So, but as I was saying, we were talking about lethality. So I think there's something to be said, about being able to walk into a room and know that if there is a threat, you can handle that threat. It doesn't mean that you're the best fighter in the room necessarily. It doesn't mean that you're going to win in the MMA fight or the cage or whatever, the best jiu-jitsu player, any of that stuff. But you're a threat to the guy who's the best jiu-jitsu player. Yeah. You know what I mean? If something happens and it's a crisis or an emergency, down to, just knowing basic first aid or being able to get somebody out of a fire because you're strong enough to pick people up and move things out of the way. If the building catches on fire, and get people to safety, get yourself to safety, or, if somebody tries to do something violent, that you would be a challenge to that violence. I think that a man can't really have an alpha framework if he's not able to at least be a challenge to others.
I think that it's one of the most overlooked parts of being a man and masculinity is most guys will dismiss the need to have the capacity for violence. Most guys, when you walk around in urban liberal type of cities, look like soy. Like, let's call it, what it is. They don't look like, they probably have a hard time opening like a jar of jam when it comes out of the pantry cupboard for the first time and it's vacuum sealed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just grab that thing and I twist it with my hands. Like, that's just a basic skill that guys need to have if you want to impress women. I'm not saying that you have it to impress women, but you have the ability to do it for yourself. So you're not like, hey, honey, can you open this jar of jam for me? Like, if you're one of the dudes that gets his wife to open up a jar of jam, you suck. Like, you failed at being a man 101, right? So I think it's just a basic fundamental thing. If you want to become a top shelf man, it is not the thing, but it is a part of the compound effect of becoming that top shelf man.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things for sure. And I think that, it's interesting because you say, chase excellence and not women is one of your sayings and stuff. But wouldn't you say, it seems pretty true here that that's a great example. Like, part of chasing excellence as a man, being an alpha frame, is knowing how to handle emergencies, how to defend yourself, things of that nature, right? And you're not doing that for a chick. You're doing that for you because it's part of your process of chasing excellence as a man, but makes you more sexually marketable, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And so that's like the genius of the formula. Guys are like focusing. It's like sometimes when you focus too much on the problem, you're not focusing on the right solutions, I guess. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but they're focusing on the reproductive problem when the solution is to not focus on the reproductive problem in a lot of ways, right? Yeah. Increase. And that's what a lot of the things that you're saying, although you talk a lot about women and different things, address a lot of different things in the book. But really the focus is on making yourself better, your status better, your SMV better, your, money situation better, your physical health and physical fitness and all that stuff better. But, it's definitely working on yourself is where the payoff is going to be when it comes to women. It's much easier to teach a guy who is an 8 in SMV, for example, some game skills than it is to get what he wants versus teaching a guy who's a 3 and who doesn't have a lot going for him. What's the first point of advice, right? To get more things going for you. That's just immediately start doing that. Can work on game, but immediately start doing this thing first. And that's going to greatly change everything else. Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit. Maybe address, you did a chapter on mgtow and red pill rage. Maybe you could expand a little bit about that, and it's kind of controversial for a lot of guys. You know what I mean? What about, and expanding on it, let's think about like maybe monk modes. What's your opinions on monk mode?
I think it's totally fine. I mean, if you've been through some trauma in your life, maybe you went through the divorce grinder and you had a bad experience and you're a little burnt from it all and you need to kind of cool your jets and unplug from chicks for a bit. If you went broke and you're living in your parents' basement, and you need to fix that. Focus on that. Go join a dojo and learn striking skills, rolling. Do whatever you got to do to like build up your self-confidence and your strength. Do a side hustle, start a business, and then as things start to improve for you and your confidence goes up and maybe you start getting the attention of women, more than you used to before, then you might want to, hop back into it and start dating again. The problem is, and I covered this in my book, is a lot of guys go the route of quitting and going to the doom pill sort of thing when their SMV is not high enough. And like they'll go and download an app and be like, oh, what's this new app called Tinder? And I'll just download it and swipe and I'll start doing this Bumble. And it's like they start swiping and they don't get a lot of matches. One is what they'll start to notice. Two, if they do get matches, they're not able to follow through and get to the date. And if they are able to follow through and get to the date, they don't close very often. Close meaning, sexual intimacy. So they get pissed off. But I mean, like one of the first things that I'll do with guys when I'll ask them, about where they're at when I'm doing my one-on-one consults is I'll say, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the absolute best version that you can possibly be and 1 being the absolute worst. Where are you? And you'll be surprised how many like 4, 5s, and 6s I get. And we know that women, and I covered this in the book, but women from 3 to a 10 only swipe right on men that they deem to be 8 or higher. So if you're a 6 as a dude, and you're not the best version of yourself, you're going to have a horrible experience. And one day this guy's going to go on the internet and it's going to be like, why don't girls like me? Or they'll see an acronym maybe somewhere posted like this mgtow, and they'll Google, what does mgtow mean? They're like, oh, that's interesting. And then they'll go down the rabbit hole. And then next thing you know, 90 days later, there's still a 5 or a 6 and they've bought a sex doll and they've given up and they come into our videos in the comments and point and sputter like little bitches.
Right. Well, it's really just, I mean, it's that mindset towards failure and defeat. You know what I mean? And they're looking for.
Yeah, it's a victim mindset. Nobody's attracted to that. Men hate it. Women despise it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just they're looking for that proof to their already negative mindset and not seeing the reality out there, which is a lot of dudes. I say a lot. Now, by percentage, it's not a lot, okay? But by numbers, it is a lot. A lot of dudes are having great relationships with women. I use the word relationships in a broad sense, casual, as well as platonic, if you want to look at like work relationships or family, as well as LTRs or harems or whatever the guy's lifestyle is. There's plenty of guys out there that are having great interactions and great relationships with women. They're doing it. You know what I mean? So when you take on this mindset or when you present something as if it's fact, like you can't have this with women. Women are, in this day and age with the way the sexual marketplace is, it's impossible to have anything productive with women. It's impossible to have women in your life that complement your life. Like, well, you can't say that and then have a series of guys who are doing it. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? One of the
silliest, like comebacks that I hear is like, well, if Brad Pitt got ground through the divorce grinder by Angelina Jolie, what makes you think you can do it? What makes you think that you can out alpha the state, Paul? And it's like, it's not about that, dude. You're getting it completely wrong. It's about doing the work for yourself. So you don't care. Right. So you have the outcome independence on, the completion of that formula. Hey, it works out good. If it doesn't work out and she bounces on you and she starts banging Chad Thundercock, doesn't matter because you've got other plates spinning. It doesn't matter to you. It's not.
Yeah, you have other options, and your life is amazing. I would much rather. I would be very. That would suck, right? I'd be hurt, emotional, whatever. Sure. If my LTR, bounced on some other dude's dong and left me or something, right? Of course. But I would much rather be a guy who's got his money together, a guy who's got his game together, his physique together, his life together, lives a really good, happy ass life. Otherwise, have that happen to me, recover from it in 2 months, and then be back into just having a happy life without her versus, you know what I mean? Not having any of it together. And she does that, right. You know what I mean? Or not having any of it together and you don't even have a girl to go do that. You just complain about girls that do that on the internet, which is really where a lot of these doom pillars are at, because these guys are not where they want to be and need to be in life to begin with. You know what I mean? Not with a lot of things. And we're finding that out, aren't we? Like, I stay away from the internets except for what I select to watch, because I don't want to poison my brain. But, you know, other guys who do a little bit more research, they find some of these guys with these channels with pretty big followings have, like, they're losers. You know what I mean? They find their actual name and their jobs and their personal lives and what they look like, what they're doing in life. They're not anybody I'd ever want to be like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's strange to me, because I always tell guys to consider the source and ask themselves if they would trade their lives with somebody else. And I've had this conversation before where I've said, can you show me, 3 or 4, affluent mgtows that are putting a dent in the universe, making bank, that are admired by people, blah, blah, blah. And they give me names of, like, total losers.
Right. Yeah.
Like, people that I would not want to trade my life with. It's like, that's stupid, right? No, thank you.
100%. You know what I mean? And so it's like, well, yeah, of course this person is latching onto these ideas and promoting them, because they're not in a position. It's making that, what's the saying, making your necessity a virtue. They're not in a position to do well. And the sad part is they could be, right? That's the sad part. You know what I mean? They could be. They think that their own lack of framework of, seeing success and going for it, that lack of drive and this having that failures and victims mindset is what's preventing them. That's the only thing preventing them. You know what I mean? They could get their crap together otherwise. Hell, some of them are building big channels and followings. If they put that energy into building a business or something different and working on themselves, they would be, doing really well and not have to have a big channel or following where they crap all over women. It's just
and what's funny is like the underlying notion of what they're building with the content that's created is actually aligned with masculine virtues of chasing excellence. Only they're chasing it in such a way that they're building something based on misery and quitting. And it's like, let's build a tribe of quitters. And nobody's ever admired that in history. And I'm not saying like any of these things to shit on MGTOW. It's like fun, I get it. Yeah. Everybody gets hurt at some point, and they go through the grinder and they realize, okay, things aren't what I thought that they were, and they're not what what they seem to be. Now, I've been fed all these lies, and they're comforting lies, and they don't work. So what's the truth? And they see the truth, but then they err on, like, the darkness of the truth. And that's why, when I titled the book The Unplugged Alpha, is it's really like unplugging from comfort and lies, so that you can become the best virtuous, like highest version of yourself, and become an unplugged alpha and get those better results out of life. So visiting, town MGTOW for a bit is probably a good idea for some guys if they've been ground up, but don't spend too much time there sulking and, hanging out in Loserville. It's just not good for you.
No, it's definitely not. Well, and the thing is, if you're not seeing the data from a objective, neutral mindset, first, and then deciding which direction to go, then you're really not seeing the reality at all. And that's the thing. Like the MGTOWs are, I'm generalizing when I say that, you know what I mean? When I say that MGTOWs, but we'll say the dooms, because people get mad when you that's another thing. Guys are watching this, and I know there's going to be guys. All right, if I offended you because I called your little nerd group, you know what I mean, something different than what you think it is, don't be mad at me for that. Okay. Like, that's being nerdy. Stop it. Okay. Like, really, it's like, oh, like I said, I said the Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, I'm in World of Warcraft. It's not Dungeons and Dragons. Like, okay, man, like, sorry, Star Trek or whatever. And no, it's Star Wars, like, whoa, like, whoa. so yeah, I'm generalizing. I don't know. Your version of MGTOW is whatever, but I mean, giving up. I mean, when I'm saying that, I mean giving up on women and giving up on this idea. The true MGTOWs really are the guys who don't care, and they're not on the internet. I think you mentioned that actually in the book. I've been saying that for a while. That's that guy who says, you know what, I'm done. Don't care. I'm 60 years old.
Yeah, that's the guy that just grabs his shit and gets a cabin in the woods and goes there with his dog and, hunts his own food and doesn't ever complain about shit to anybody ever again. Like that's in my view, the real MGTOW. That's
the real MGTOW. And you know what? That guy, if he's happy, man, God bless him. Like, I'm not going to tell him how to live his life. You know what I mean? But now if he starts telling me I can't live my life a certain way because it's impossible, look at this data that I just spun in the most negative way you could possibly think of.
Yeah, I
Okay,
covered
well, now we have a problem.
Yeah, they have like there's a lot of guys that have this habitual ability to spin data in such a negative light that it's just completely absurd. There was
Yeah.
there's an example that I use in the chapter of the book to illustrate it in a clear way. But I mean, basically, they were taking a risk that amounts to multiple points lower in risk than driving a car, and yet everybody drives a car every fucking single day. But this guy makes an entire argument based around domestic DV is so prominent and so frequent that the chances of it happen are so high that you have to just completely disconnect. Okay, well then you should stop driving your car to work too. Then if that's your argument.
Well,
I broke it down with facts.
Right. Well, and those are like the arguments, like gun control arguments, where someone says, you're more likely to get shot in your own home with your own gun if you own guns. Like, yeah, I know, that's crazy, right? Like, yeah, that's an argument against not having them.
That's
like,
weird how that happens. Owning a gun means you can get shot by your own gun.
Yeah, it's more likely.
Awesome.
Like more likely, statistically more probable. It's like, yep, it's just like statistically more probable that statistically more probable that your kids could drown in your swimming pool.
Yeah, if
you own a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty statistically more probable, but it's like that doesn't mean don't own a swimming pool, ding dongs. It's like you put safety measures in place and you enjoy your pool, and your kids don't fall in it. It's pretty simple. Well, it's just like women. Like, yeah, okay, statistically more probable you're gonna have all the list of problems guys have with women if you have women in your life.
Yeah. Well, how do you Hey, Paul, I got a question for you. How do you avoid going through the divorce grinder? Don't get married.
Well, there you go.
Problem solved. I covered that in my book too. Smart.
That actually is a good solution to that problem, though.
Yeah. You want to avoid that problem? Don't get married. Problem solved.
Don't do it. Done.
Don't be stupid.
Done. Yeah. That's definitely. That's definitely something guys should really think hard and twice about in this day and age for sure. Something like just popped in my head though, changing directions or whatever, but you have a lot of really good actionable things in the book too. And I won't even give that stuff away. You know what? It's like $7 or something on Kindle. So just buy the book to get the actionable stuff. We're not even going to give it away. We're not even going to give it away on and there's the cover with the mystery pick. We got the mystery pick in the background. All right. For the Instagram
mystery pick. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that was what was cool. And back to mention it because of your advice for setting up your Instagram or Facebook or online dating and stuff. And we're not going to give that stuff away. If you guys want those steps of how to set that up properly, I fully endorse it and buy the book for that. But the reason why I like that is, and this is what caused me, not just Instagram, but a couple other things. It's what caused me to put, like in most of my videos now, unless I, depends on some of the videos, maybe not if I forget or something on a different topic altogether. But most of my videos, I have just like a few books that I recommend, and yours is one of them. It's like yours, Rollo's, and I think I even recommended Ryan's book too. And that's it right there. But there's a lot of other books that are great. You know what I mean? Of course. But why would I recommend your book as a foundational book that I'm linking to all my videos? Because if you're doing this foundational stuff, when you get the red pill theory or when you start working more intently on certain aspects of your life, you have the foundation to work off of. I have a lot of guys that are booking sessions with me, and part of our sessions are we're going through their dating profile apps and I'm helping them with game. I'm helping them respond to girls, and they're finding that they're getting the dates they want. They're getting better results. They're getting hotter women, attracting hotter women through that text exchange in that game. That's been a big part of like some of my consultations lately because of the pandemic stuff, so it's been actually a little bit less of the in-person cold approach stuff and more of this text exchange. I'm helping these guys with how they tailor their language and how to, build up that fantasy which I call it that it's more of a fantasy that you're building before they meet you, but you're building up that fantasy and that mystery that causes them to be curious and causes them to sort of imagine being with a guy that's higher SMV, and then they agree to go on that date. And that's kind of the direction. But can't get there if your profile sucks, can't get there if you're not if some of the basics aren't covered. If a guy doesn't know the basics, I'm spending an hour in a consult trying to get them to get the basics when they can buy your book for $7, do it on their own, execute that, and then say, okay, I've been executing this. How do I get this better? So I would much rather work with a guy and he's going to get much more bang for his buck if he's already working on some foundational stuff versus me saying, okay, man, like your pictures look like crap. Let's go through this, for example, right? And you tell guys how to tailor their pictures up a little bit better and how to keep that online presence going a little bit better. But why don't you expand a little bit when you're in an LTR now, but when you're in the dating market, like expand a little bit on how that worked for you. Cause you weren't like this game guy or pickup guy. You just were making it happen and getting good results. So what was your formula? What were you doing?
So I read this book, I don't know, 2008 or 9 called Inbound Marketing. And I mean, I didn't, again, if I included everything in that book, it would have been 800 pages long. So I wanted to keep it short and tight, to keep it to 200. But the story behind the story is, as a guy, you basically want to set up your life so that your customers come to you. I think it was the Red Baron that said that it's far better for your customers to come to you than for you to go to your customers, because his strategy in warfare was basically to climb high so that he could dive down, with the sun behind him. So he was hard to spot and destroy the enemy. And that worked really, really well for him. So he would just basically climb high and wait for the enemy to approach enemy territory and then deal with them that way. So the notion of inbound marketing, can work in many areas of a man's life. And I thought to myself a number of years ago, well, there's this online dating thing and it doesn't seem that difficult to figure out. But the problem with it, though, is when you don't understand female nature as a baseline, which I didn't at the time when I got into it, obviously,
right?
You don't understand female hypergamy, why you need to signal high value, how to deal with game and use, amuse mastery and cocky funny and blah, 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 and all that stuff. You don't understand all those fundamentals, right? So you don't always get the best results. And sometimes when you do get results, you're like, why does this 3 think that she deserves my attention, right? Like, why am I only matching with 3s? Am I only a 3? You start to ask yourself questions like this.
Sure.
Am I broke, stupid, dumb, and have nothing going on for me? Like, really? Like, is that
right?
So then once you kind of like crack the code in it and you figure out how to use it and how to have proper photography, which I explain in my book, and how to lay out your bio, which I explain in my book, and how to message and what the purpose of online dating is. I mean, most guys will waste way too much time going back and forth with messaging. The whole point of, the dating app game is to basically get the number and set up the date. Because if she's got genuine burning desire for you, there's no back and forth bullshit. When you say, hey, let's get together Thursday, this time, this place, what's your number? Let's set it up. And she says, here's my number. Awesome. You're in the right direction. If she says, well, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better, or I just don't give out my number to strangers, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have desire for you. You're wasting your time. Right.
Sure.
And it could be because she doesn't see you as high enough value. It could be because she's indifferent to you. It could be because your photography sucks. It could be for any number of things. But I like online game. I think it's easy. Like I play it on God mode. When I play it, it's not hard for me. It's very easy to spin plates, when you're good at online games. So that's just my take on it. I think it's a better use of your time than, you hear these pickup artists that are like, well, buy my course and stand in the Times Square for whatever period of time and regurgitate these statements to this number of women.
Right.
And make sure you're peacocking, with certain stuff or whatever. Okay. That's one way to do it. I just don't like it. I just don't think it's a good use of your time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big fan. I know, like, even people I like and enjoy and stuff are a big fan of the run up to a girl and accost her with compliments and then say that I had to come talk to you because you're so pretty, or because your dress looks good, or because you're whatever. I'm not a fan. There's some
people that are great at that. Like our friend Troy Francis, he loves it.
Yeah.
He's good at it.
He does.
Awesome. You can do that too.
Well, and I'm good at it too, but here's the thing. I call that and it's no offense. Troy has a lot more game than that. You know what I mean? So I was just isn't a slam on Troy. Same with some of these other guys that do that as their opener and what they're doing. And I get why they do it, because they're trying to bust through. The benefit of that for guys is busting through approach anxiety.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So if you just do this 100 times, you bust through approach anxiety. Well, now we can get a little bit better, do something a little bit more advanced. But my whole thing is that it's yeah, I was on a train of thought with this, and I just but yeah, it's like that's what I call the Hail Mary. All right, so in my version of game, the game course I'll eventually have someday, but frame is coming first. That's a Hail Mary pass. That's in American football is where you just throw the ball as hard and long down the field and hope somebody catches it. That's what that is. It's just like I'm shooting my shot. Boom. You know what I mean? And like, hey, you look hot. Had to come talk to you. Oh, she laughed at me and walked away. Whatever. I threw it. It's fine. And then you do that 100 times. To me, that, although I understand why some of the game coaches start with that, and I know like guys like Troy have more than that, of course, to offer. But to me, that's very low level. You know what I mean? Obviously, and a new guy, maybe that's what he needs, but that's a low level game. That's what you do when this chick is like smoking and you're in a transitional like environment where she's not around for a while. You have to shoot your shot or it's like over with, and you just say fuck it, you know what I mean, and you go.
I'll tell you what though, you've got to be good at talking to women in general. You can practice as you're going about your day, like you're at the bank and there's a pretty teller and you chat her up for the 5 minutes that you're there. Yeah. Maybe you chat her up to get her number. Maybe you chat her up just to chat her up. Right. Yeah. Either way, you need to be good at the skill, because one of the things that keeps women interested in men is knowing that other women are interested in their man. So, right. I mean, the restaurants are closed right now, but if you go out for dinner, with your chick and you sit down and there's a hot waitress, you better know how to indirectly flirt with her to not come off in such a way that you're a sleazeball, but at least so that your girl picks up on the fact that this hot chick over here that's serving you is showing signs and indicators of interest.
Yeah, generating interest that way.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not only that is, and the reason why I do like to start, if I'm trying to get a guy to Jedi level with women, I like to start Jedi level, from Star Trek. And
it's not Star Trek.
It's not. That's not what it means.
Retard.
Right. Idiot. So if I want to get a dude like Jedi level with women, I like to start him off with in person and then build the online. That's just me. It's a slower process, but the reason why is because eventually they're going to be on the date with the girl, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually they're going to be in front of her, and then they're going to have to interact in front of her. But I want to, what's interesting, and this is a really good testament too about having the skills when it comes to these things, as well as the SMV, because you were a high SMV guy when you got on the dating apps, in the sense of you had money, you had, looks, you had the stuff, right, that a chick would want to be with. But then you're matching with threes. You're like, what's going on? And so that's a testament. A lot of these guys they start the online dating process and they don't know what they're doing. They don't have their marketing plan set up, which I like the fact that you use that book, because that's an analogy I use too, is that your online presence is like your marketing material, and I think it's just a very true and good analogy. It was your marketing. The product was good. You know what I mean? You were still the same Rich Cooper, entrepreneur, investor, who's hitting the gym and doing all the stuff. It was just the marketing plan, what I mean, wasn't quite there. And that's what happens. So a lot of guys will get on the dating apps and they don't know how to deal with the algorithms. They don't know how to present themselves appropriately on these apps. And then they're like, oh man, I'm only matching with threes or fours, or I'm not getting I'm kind of getting ghosted or whatever. The biggest reason a girl is not going to ghost you, and the reason why she'll want to strike up a conversation with you, is because of your immediate SMV and your immediate appearance. And so you mentioned that statistic, actually, I think in the book, and that's 100, so it puts them in, in the selecting part, but here guys will get negative about that, like, oh, they're only picking the chads and the hot dudes and the guys are standing next to a Lambo, whatever. Okay, all right, but here's the thing of it is it's really easy to present that online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the whole point of the online, like the inbound marketing is it's easier when your customer comes to you. It's easier when women come to you, right? Like when you get the game down, right? And yeah, you get a little bit of social status if you've got a YouTube following and, people check out your social feeds. Like you'll get women sliding into your DMs. It's going to happen. It's just a far better way to go about your life as a guy when you have yourself sorted out and you understand everything and you're not like going out there chasing tail. Like one of the funny things that I hear from some of these doomers is like, oh, you're just a pussy chaser, or what do they call it? Like you're seeking like women's it's like
validation. Yeah.
Yeah. Like no, dude, you don't get it. Like you really just don't get it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a twist anyway, of course, of the things of there's guys who are chasing women and seeking validation with women. And certainly a lot of PUAs are doing that, right? But that's not having women in your life that complement your life is not the same thing. That's they're taking an idea and they're spinning off in that direction again with it, which is what they're really good at doing. Unfortunately.
And a lot of dudes get frustrated. Like there's a comment here. I'm just looking at on my peripheral. Dudes like, there's a lot of fatties on those apps. And hot women that get hit on all the time usually don't need to use apps to get the attention of men, right? Like you're going to get
seeking.
Yeah. I think like your average chick on a dating app is probably going to be like a 6, maybe a 5, they're not that hot. Like there's a lot of entitled, wall smashed, a lot of single mommies in there with multiple kids in tow from different fathers. Like there's a lot of red flag, like dating apps are filled with red flags. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You just have to get good at sorting through it.
Yeah. And I will say one thing, just as a little caveat I've noticed, especially with coaching guys and stuff, because I get most of it now through coaching dudes because my game at this point has gotten so lazy, because it's so like ridiculously effortless that I do nothing now. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I could do nothing, if I'm the closest to doing nothing that you could get. And I'm getting like all of these massive results, right?
And that's a big change from your 20s, right? Because I mean, the way that you described your 20s, like you sucked, right?
Yeah, I did. Till I was 21, I was negative game.
Yeah,
I would say I had some experiences, but it was like negative status. Now I did go through a period for a couple of years where I was good, not like now. I definitely had to put effort into it, and I definitely dealt with a lot of BS, right? But I started to figure things out, and all it was simply being tired of it, tired of the crap, and setting a standard. It's amazing what happens when a guy just says, you know what, I'm not putting up with bullshit anymore. I'm going to set my standards. That was all I did. I didn't do anything different, and all of a sudden I had a little rotation going.
There's a lot of dudes today that know how to put women in checkmate now, which is kind of cool, because I've started to see a lot of those screenshots. Normally, like I get screenshots of like, pregnant 22-year-olds with like 3 kids already that work at like, I don't know, Subway sandwiches as like a sandwich artist, and she's all strong and independent sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny when you see these guys like putting these women in like checkmate now. So it's good that guys are starting to grow a set and create some boundaries. But I don't think it's ever going to change in the long term, because there's way too many thirsty betas out there that throw out like free attention, like it's going out of style.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I was going to mention real quick about is the hotter they are and the younger they are, the harder it can be to get attention from them on apps. They're inundated so much that they don't know your SMV. You know what I mean? They can't. And so it can be definitely a little bit more difficult, a little bit more of a numbers game. And there might be a little bit more of a back and forth communication, because they have so much interest that they're trying to make it's like you've ever, and we've all experienced having a chick try to make a decision, right, on something.
Yeah.
Okay. And so picture that, okay, but on the apps with 40 dudes matched and 35 of them in their inbox, and that's not even a a joke number. Like,
No.
you know what I mean? Like that week. And so she's a hot 21, like 21-year-old, 22-year-old girl. Cause some of you guys that are listening are wanting to go for that age category. There's a lot more shallowness and a lot like of attention span problems you'll have to deal with, just so you know. Even if your game's tight and even if you have a lot of good things going for you, they might not see you, which is why one of the things I recommend, a little different than what you had, but in your book, but it's there's a reason behind it, is as I do kind of recommend sometimes depending on how the conversation's going and depending on the app too, moving them to your social media. The reason I recommend that isn't because you're being like beta and afraid to ask for the phone number and the date or whatever. It's just because some of these apps, you really can't present your SMV all that well. And you might be dealing with a hot girl who's, you know, basically lukewarm. She's continuing a conversation or she's showing some interest, but she's not quite there to make the decision. And just saying, hey, you know what? I'm not on these apps very often. I don't want to forget about you. Why don't you move over to my Instagram and we'll DM each other? What that does is it just sort of, I've noticed that this is a recent like development too. I do that. I used to do just straight to the phone number. You know what I mean? But I do that now because I'm finding that, especially with pandemic stuff, these girls are like so inundated. When you do that, then she gets on, you know, let's say Rich Cooper's Instagram, and then he sees, holy crap, you know, he's this personality. He drives this car. He does, you know what I mean?
Well, I wouldn't give out my Instagram for something like that because mine's mostly a shit posting account. Like I flick boogers at feminists and nerds all the time. I'm just using
that example though.
Do you actually have two? Do you actually have two Instagrams, like one personal and one for Apex Mindset, or how do you do it?
I keep my Instagram all Apex Mindset now. Okay. So, you know, I really didn't do enough on it to matter early on. And so it's
because I mean, like ideally as a dude, like you want to build an Instagram that would signal high value, you know, with the right type of photography and the right sort of setup. You know, I'd rather use that with 1,000 followers than one that's got like, you know, my main account has got 40,000 where I shit post all day long, you know, making fun of feminists and nerds, right?
True. Well, especially the way that you shit post and pissing all the girls off all the time. You might want to like let her get into your frame a little bit and get some desire and attraction and then piss her off. And then she's more attracted to you versus she doesn't know you yet, doesn't realize your value. And then you piss her off immediately. You know, it might not be the best idea, but yeah, that's just something, you know what I mean? It's interesting but recognizing too, though, like I said, it's like setting up that marketing plan with your platforms is really a key to success. It's just like being high SMV and then going to do game. You're going to get a lot better results than being really challenged in your sexual market value and trying to do game, right? Obviously.
Got it.
Want to shift to gears, like the one like last thing before we close though.
Yeah.
I really liked the beginning of the book. I really liked it. You talked about your PTSD a little bit. And, you know, with dealing with that chick, all right, with dealing with the one-itis situation, let's have a sharing time where we talk about our feelings. No, I'm just kidding. but really though, it's good. No, but I really
hands
like
and sing Kumbaya.
Let's hold hands and let's talk about our traumas. But no, I do, because we've all experienced that, and I think guys will see you guys in the audience, they read your book, you're like an unattainable guy to a lot of guys, you know what I mean? Like you're this dude who's right, but they don't know that, you know, they see your personality, they see your badass car and telling guys, hey Chase, don't put up with women's crap, don't date single mommies, loser, you know, and then you go on, you don't say loser, but you're just like, don't be a loser. And then the next thing, and they see you as an unattainable. The people see me that way. I find that weird. You know what I mean? It's like a weird feeling, but they will see you that way. You know, they're like, oh man, I can never be like this guy or whatever. This guy's never gone through what I've gone through because he's just way too alpha or way too strong to be that person. And the reality is, you know, well, I've gone through it too. You've gone through it. Like it's very damaging when you allow a chick into your life, the wrong chick, and you put your emotional investment into that. And then she does something like cheat on you. She does something that she was wired to do already. And there really was nothing you were going to do to stop that. which is she'll cheat on you, she'll discard you, doing some of those things, that borderline personality disorder type behaviors. And you hear you put all this investment in, and you had an illusion too of how things are, and didn't understand, like you didn't know yet, right? And now your whole worldview and sense of identity, sense of self is like destroyed based on this experience. And that is, I just really thought, I just want to comment on that, but I really thought that, that was really cool that you shared that portion. And I'm highly suggesting guys read that, because most guys come to this space, come to your channel, come to my channel, because that's something that they've dealt with. And maybe like in the last couple of minutes, mentioning that and going through that experience. I mean, I know you talk about in the book, but I mean, a little bit here, what was that process of getting out of that for you? Like, if you could sum it up, like, so you were in a bad headspace with it. What was your process of getting out?
It took basically understanding what the problem was, which was subscribing to a broken belief system, bunch of comforting lies, basically. Not seeing the facts and accepting the facts for what they are, and then basically pivoting and responding in a way that lets you put yourself first. It was a complex thing. I was talking to Sean Smith about this once offline, and I described it in the unplugging, the intro to the book, basically there. But you have this safe world theory which you construct in your head. Yeah. And you create these covert contracts, like if you just do this, like if then that sort of thing, then you'll get the desired outcome. But the problem is all of these covert contracts that a lot of guys create are based on comforting lies, are based on, the Disney story, are based on to the bullshit narratives that the media, school, religion, government, your parents, all that bullshit out, sitcoms all pound into you as you're growing up. And then at some point, you realize, oh, well, disparaging myself and calling myself an idiot is kind of dumb, and that doesn't work. And, we saw this a couple of days ago with Valentine's Day. We saw a couple of posts in our Facebook group, at the 1%, where, some people shared some pictures of like, like a Valentine's Day card. And it's always like the same simpy shit. Like, I'm such a loser and I'm so lucky to have you. And thank you so much for being in my life. And it's like, you think she's moist after looking at that, but guys, generally speaking, are sold that. It's like, disparage yourself, treat yourself like crap, don't value yourself. And she will come around, fellas. At some point, she's going to want to enthusiastically bang you like she did, the cute Italian guy she had a threesome with in Ibiza at the foam cannon party at 3 a.m. sort of thing. It doesn't work that way. So, the whole unplugging process can be done a number of ways. But the starting point really is, I always bring it back to something like alcoholism. Like, how do you deal with the fact that you've got a drinking problem? Well, you first acknowledge that you have a drinking problem.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Acknowledging the problem is definitely the thing. That's the one thing that I always tell guys, even when they're vetting women too, is you have to ask yourself, is she capable? Even a client, although a client is seeking help, so that's demonstrating capability. But if like somebody is, wanting to do better in something and you want to help them do better, or you want to, have a girl in your life or whatever, and have something where you're invested and she's invested, you have to ask yourself, is this person capable? Are they demonstrating the capabilities? Because, and that's seeing the problem is the first beginning of demonstrating that capability. You're not capable of fixing something if you don't see the problem,
Correct.
And that's, I think, really a good takeaway, where guys will really save themselves from that experience, which can be very debilitating and very distressing. And a lot of guys don't recover from it as well as you have, as well as I have. We're going through these bad experiences with women where it practically destroys your life. I mean, it doesn't even matter how good you're doing. Like, everything is like crap. You know what I mean? So you can't enjoy anything, and seeing these problems, and seeing and avoiding these pitfalls is like the first step to not being in the situation is the best way. You know what I mean? And so if a guy can read your book and not get in the situation, or not be in a situation, or if they were in that situation, not be in that situation ever again, And I think it's, you're definitely doing the world a great service with what you wrote.
Well, you're doing yourself a far better service. So grab the book,
Yep.
read it, leave a nice review on Amazon. Helps out a ton. Hope you guys
Yeah.
enjoy it. But yeah.
Heck yeah. And I will leave a review. I was a douche and I didn't leave a review till like yesterday because I made it to like the last chapter and just didn't finish for some reason. I got sidetracked. And then I was like, I got to do this interview. I better read it real quick. And then the Amazon thing or the Kindle thing popped up, leave a review. I was like, oh yeah. And then made sure I did that. Listen, don't be like me in that sense. Leave a review. The reason why is because there's a lot of haters out there that are going to want to be a detractor from this stuff that's going to save dudes' lives. Okay. And there's haters out there that are going to talk crap about Rich or things we're doing or whatever. And not maybe even talk back crap about the book or leave a bad review. Those people are losers. Help us out, help your fellow man out, not just Rich here, and hit the thumbs up, or not thumbs up, but it's a 5-star. You hit the 5-star, you put the review on there so that we override all those idiots that are really not helping anybody with anything. So that's
let me just say
man.
this before you wrap up, guys.
Yeah.
A lot of you asked me about the Audible version. It's coming. It'll be out by spring at the very latest. So it's available in print and Kindle right now. It's like $7 on Kindle. It's a little bit more on print. Audio's coming soon. As soon as I get it out, I'll let you know. So follow me on social and I'll make the announcement there.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again for coming on my channel, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's always fun to hang out. Oh, and next Monday, Paul's going to be on my channel on Before the Train Wreck. We're going to be talking about the love languages and why that's bullshit and why it leads men to train wrecks in their lives. So that'll be a good one because Paul's got some good insight on that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And till next time. Catch you later.
You got it. See you. Peace.
All right.